Welcome back to the Pumpernickel podcast.
Pumpernickel!
We're back for another week. Up to the usual, as usual. This is Elvin,
Eddie,
Nathaniel,
Michael.
and of course, Mike may peek his head in every now and then. We don't know. You never know what to expect with Mike.
the White Michael.
The white Mike, yeah. But I guess we'll just jump straight into it again this week. Eddie brought up a really good topic about the prison system, and I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I was thinking earlier this week, I was talking to a couple of friends of mine, and, we all know that the prison system isn't designed to rehabilitate, right? Like, currently it's set up to, put money into private businesses that are building these facilities to gain, these contracts and just make a slaying in terms of money, right? But if you did want to rehabilitate, do you think that's a possibility?
To some degree, yes. To some degree, no.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it out to the table for us to talk about. I don't know.
I think it's totally possible.
Well, one, before we even broach the topic of rehabilitation, we have to consider what they got put in for, because some things can't be fixed.
Well, some things can't be fixed, right? There's mental illnesses. Let's get mental illness out the question, right? Let's assume that
that's a huge portion of people in prison.
There is a big portion of people in prison, but let's assume that you're dealing with people who knowingly are doing Grand Theft Auto, are drug dealing, maybe have, let's throw on the high end, homicide.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people, like we had a couple weeks ago, I think it was last week or the week before, we talked about the idea that, at least my idea of people, in that people just do what's convenient. I think that people can be rehabilitated. The issue is that if the circumstances that led them to be in prison are the only way they see out, then they're going to go back to jail. That's how it always works. Because if the only way I know how to make money is from jacking cars or kicking doors in, you know what I mean? I'm not going to learn a new way it's the most lucrative means. It's the only way I can get out of the situation that I'm in. And the issue with jail, of course, is that it breeds, it's this self-fulfilling prophecy. You go in once, you now have a felony, so you can't go.
You're marked on it. Yeah,
you're marked.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's all these other issues that come with it. So what do you expect the person to do once you let them go? And then a lot of times, if those people go in for those types of things, they're already coming from troubled situations anyway, so their family doesn't necessarily have the means to support them, even if they have family. And then they get out, they don't have anyone, anything. They just get left out on the street, essentially. What do you think they're going to do next? You know what I mean?
No, exactly right.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Mm-hmm. So you have to break, if you want to get them out of that, you have to break that system.
Yeah. And I found out some time ago that you could actually get degrees in jail.
Yeah, you can.
And part of me considered it for a little while. I was like,
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You won't go to jail so you can get a degree?
Yeah.
What?
It's probably, if you put that on your resume, I got a degree from Law Park, it's not the same as going to Harvard.
My man considered jail for the education.
Maximum security prison, New York Penitentiary.
Summa cum laude. Is this a second degree?
My bad, not to make a joke out of it. I know people in prison.
Bro, you ain't gotta preface it, bro. It's cool. Everybody, if you ain't know this podcast, we all know.
Right.
It's all
I'm just saying. Yeah. People actually work really hard, and I think the offering of a degree is a good idea, right? I think nowadays you should give them maybe more trade school kind of training. Not necessarily a degree, but
we're running out of people like that.
Right, electrical, plumbing. Right, these people, you can switch them into those job markets.
That's the thing. And somewhere in California, what's the big one there? The one in the desert?
Oh, I forget the name of it.
Is that San Quentin?
Yeah.
They're doing it at San Quentin, I think. Yeah. They have a welding school or something.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. So circumstances, like Elvin said, that brought people into prison, typically for the most part, are socioeconomic, right?
Right.
You're poor, you don't find a way out, it's hard to get an education, so you can't find a proper job that'll pay your bills. It's easy, it's convenient, everybody's doing it. Let me sell some drugs, let me go steal a car, let me break into this house.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can go get a welding job. And
so if we can somehow, if the penal system can be changed such that we're no longer marking these people with scarlet letters because of the felony charges they have, then you have welders, you have plumbers, you have electricians, you have...
Yeah. And going along those same lines, not to veer off of this topic at all, but it's... nothing pisses me off more than people who act like the crimes that a person does are so beneath them. And it's about, the circumstances that lead to a person doing a crime could be replicated on anybody. You know what I mean? Like, so it's weird to me when people go
to some
like,
degree, yeah. Some crimes, not so much.
I mean, like I said, I know it's sick, and one thing we explore this podcast a lot is like the ethical side of things, but it's like you could replicate the experiments, or you could replicate the scenarios that would lead a person to do just about anything. Like, it's easily doable with enough time and with enough effort to make someone do things that they would otherwise never think they were capable of doing.
I think Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd proved that in Trading Places.
And back to the topic.
I mean, is that not the whole premise of the movie?
Yeah, the movie's premise was that you could do that, yeah, which I agree with. Like, I do agree. I'm joking, but I agree with that. You could send people down whatever path. So basically, I'm bringing that up to bring up the fact that any of these situations don't make the person any less a person. So even if you do these crimes, or you're capable of these things, or you've done them more than once, it's like you are still as human as anybody else, so you shouldn't be denied the same rights when you're free, you know?
Yeah. What about like white collar crimes?
What do you mean? Like, should they
like Bernie Madoff doing the embezzlement stuff? Is that still?
I think embezzlement,
because he doesn't need to do any of that. He doesn't need to steal hundreds of millions of dollars. He doesn't need to embezzle entire companies' fortunes of 401ks.
But when you're living at the like everybody likes to think, well, I'm not rich, so when I'm rich, I wouldn't care. But life is different when you're at every socioeconomic bubble.
Yeah, because
like, to him, he ain't rich compared to the people he spends his time with.
Yeah, I mean, like there's
perspective.
There's always going to be a higher level of rich.
Right.
It's just like, oh man, like, you know, somebody's like bumming it with minimum wage, and then like to the person that's at minimum wage, seeing somebody with a salary job, that person's rich.
Right.
That salary job person doesn't make six figures, so they hang out with somebody that makes six figures, and they're like, man, that person's rich.
And the cycle continues.
And the cycle continues, just like, man, I got hundreds of millions of dollars, but that person's a billionaire.
Right. It's all a matter of perspective, and it's. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's tough because to us, it would seem like it's just not a possibility. It's like, oh, once I made this amount of money, I wouldn't care about anything else. But then it's like, you're already there. Why not shoot for more, you know? Yeah,
and it's just like, you know, if I've already made it to like the million mark, how many more millions can I get?
Right.
Like, can I like push myself all the way up to $1 billion? If I make $1 billion, like, can I be multi-billion? Like, what's feasible? And there's always that level of like.
And money is keeping score at that point, right? It's a scoreboard, because after a certain level of money, you hit a point where, like, because to us, we always think of money, or I guess the people in our socioeconomic standard, we think of having a lot of money as like Scrooge McDuck, or like whatever it is, you jump into a pool of money and you hang out. Like that, not us necessarily, but in general, you kind of think of money as this resource that you can just tap into.
Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, you have an infinite amount of it. But for people who are at that level, it's not money; it's power. The money brings about a certain level of power. So you don't view your life as having so much millions of dollars. You just view it from the standpoint of, oh, I can influence this much. You know.
It's like what gives you more access. Because more money is just going to give you more
access. Yeah, you don't necessarily care about stuff at that point. You've got all the stuff you wanted.
Yeah, you can get anything that anybody else gets. It's like, but
a lot of them don't even want the stuff they got. They just got a bunch of it because it was the power that came with it.
Yeah, but running it back to the prison system, the reason I thought about it was because it was going to be... or thought about going to prison in order to get my degree was because it was going to be federally funded. So like I would get a degree and I wouldn't have any student loans afterward.
Right, but how long would you have to stay in jail for you to get that degree?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're in there for, let's say if it runs like a 2-year university or something like that, or 3-year, you're in jail for 2-3 years. What is that like? What's a misdemeanor?
Well, jail time is exclusively 12 months.
Jail is
12 months. When someone says 1 year prison, that's prison. Years are prison. Months are jail.
Okay.
Yeah, up to 12 months in jail, and then if you're doing 2 years, that's prison.
Degree,
What kind of degrees are we talking about here? Are we getting like, surgery, or are we getting like GED?
It's like GED level. Well, you could get actual degrees, but I mean like it's like GED level because it's a jail. Like how much funding does a jail have for an education?
I'm trying to understand.
No, I'm not giving you trash. I'm just saying.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't do a whole lot of research into this. So
it was just a consideration.
Yeah, but it was a consideration. It's just like, I mean, like if I'm already in jail, like I have nothing else to do all day but focus on reading these textbooks, learning this information.
I think about that sometimes too.
Like, and that's it. That's my whole
think
day.
about, like, if I
Every day.
All right.
You don't need jail for that, though.
Well, under this hypothetical, then, what would you have done to have gotten into jail?
Trust me, I didn't think.
I realize you didn't think about it, so I'm asking you right now on the fly. What would you do?
Let's say, to help this scenario along,
All right.
that you can get a better education in jail than you can in a university. Like Harvard University is subsequent to like La Park's doctorate program in New York. So you can get a higher, more reputable education in a prison or jail, whichever word we use, than you would normally in a high-ranking university.
What's your crime?
Yeah.
I have no idea what my crime would be. It would probably be like, I don't know, theft or something.
Friends with bandits.
Well, it couldn't be a misdemeanor, so you have to go pretty high dollar.
So it has to be like a theft of like, expensive vehicle.
Certain amount of money.
Yeah.
I think it's over a couple grand.
Yeah, you're looking at like the theft of a 2018 Grand King Ranch. Like,
No, you're not. A felony is at least like, I think a felony is like $300 of like stealing things.
That can't be right.
really?
Yeah.
No, I thought
So-
grand larceny was like over 1,500. Something like that.
Google will
I think
tell
it
us.
I
was-
believe Eddie only because he used the term grand larceny. It just made more sense in my head to me. I was like, yep, that sounds about right. Like,
So it says
Now possession.
theft up to $500 is a misdemeanor.
Right.
Larger amounts may be a felony.
maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Often referred to as larceny when it's a larger amount.
Right.
And then grand larceny is over how much?
It's probably,
I don't know.
I forget the numbers, but now you could be caught in possession of more than a certain amount of certain drugs, like maybe cocaine or heroin,
of the herbal essence.
that are like they hit you with that. No warnings, no nothing. Like 25 years in prison.
Yeah, nah. I mean, like, the easiest thing, probably the
For
easiest
some
thing to
bud?
do. Nah.
Oh,
For holding like a couple of grams.
to get high for 2 days, now I'm down for 25? Nah, man.
Nah, I'll pass
If I'm
it.
reading this right, it says grand larceny is usually a high dollar amount, ranging from $1,000 to $5,000. What if you're stealing a $30,000 item? What is that?
That's grand larceny.
It's still grand
That's a
larceny.
grand
It
larceny.
says 1 to 5. So what's above
Yeah.
5? Is it like super,
Grand larceny.
super larceny?
Uber larceny.
Ultra larceny.
It's wording that like
Mega
lawyers
larceny.
put in there for
Go
like
to jail
yeah.
forever.
Yeah, but like $1,000. Like you could
That's
put
easy.
like give me a PS4, an Xbox One, and a Switch.
Yeah,
And
you go to jail.
Throw that in a cart and walk outside. That's it.
Large
Would
TV.
be your crime, Melvin? If you
Oh
had to
yeah, or a
commit-
large TV.
Done.
Large TV, huh?
Yeah.
If you had to commit a crime to go to jail to get this education, what would you do?
To get the education, I would keep it as minimal as possible to get the education. So I would assume that we would have to go to prison, not jail.
Right, for minimum 4 years. So
Yeah, probably 4.
So for 4 years, I got to be locked away.
Yep.
I'm doing maximum loitering.
Maximum loitering.
Oh, wait,
I'm
we're talking
loitering.
public-
I'm loitering on like
And this
on
is
1600 Pennsylvania Ave. Like I'm just loitering. Like they gonna catch me and they gonna pull me up and be like, if we catch you again, you go to jail, and I'm gonna go right back up on the lawn and start playing
And doing the
September
Dougie?
by Earth, Wind, and Fire, bro. At 3:00 in the morning. And they gonna come outside. I got 2 streamers out in the air, just like throw waving them around. Next thing you know, I'm in jail. They're gonna be like, "What you in here for?" And I'm like, I tried to assassinate the president."
It sounds like theft is the easiest thing to do to get tossed in there without too much damage. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Theft seems about reasonable.
I don't
Or
know.
possession.
Yeah.
But if you go to jail and you tell people you're a serial loiterer, you get your ass whooped.
Yeah, but you also don't tell people that.
Yeah, you just sit there and stay quiet.
They'll see
keep
the
to
news
yourself.
enough. They'll be like, "Oh, this dude was at the White House. What was he about to do?" And it's just like, then they'll leave you alone at that point. It's like, was he about to?
You loitering over there, bro?
Yeah.
I
And
don't
you
know,
get
man.
to jail and get caught loitering again. In your cell, Samuel. Outside, do you remember?
you end up in maximum security prison.
Because I loitered too much.
Everybody around you is like
You didn't hurt anybody.
hardened criminals, and you're just like,
They
well,
got
you're
you
here for it. You're
strapped
just
in
like,
like Hannibal, and it's just like you find out it's because he loitered too much. What?
no, like the movie Con Air with Nicolas Cage and
Oh,
what's his name?
John Malkovich.
I don't even know if they would really do anything. I think they just tell you to scram.
Yeah, the first time they'd be like, you need to get out of here, but then the second time you just start playing September again on the lawn, and then eventually you get some jail time. You're gonna get some jail time eventually.
I mean, like eventually, but I think it would take. I think it would take more than like a couple of times. Like I really, especially if you weren't like.
They might check your mental faculties. They might just take you to a psych ward.
I feel like that would happen more than
hurt anybody.
And that is way worse.
So that's another question I have. All right, so I was
Puzzle
thinking.
Factory? Nah.
Well, yeah, about mental rehabilitation, because we said a lot of prisoners have mental issues, right? So we pay lots of money to have these people in prison and jail, and we're paying for food, shelter, all these amenities. But I was reading a couple books, and I don't know, these are old books, like Ernest Hemingway, and about the British system of like, if you're crazy, they just lock you up and they take care of you.
You would read that.
I'm just saying. Does that happen here in the States too? Like if you're just a crazy person, because there's plenty of homeless people.
Yeah.
So what level of crazy dictates an officer to arrest you and toss you into the loony bin?
You doing stuff. Like,
there's no crime against being just cuckoo.
Yeah, or being loony.
So you have to literally be doing something stupid crazy or something illegal for you to like...
something illegal to get arrested.
Yeah,
so now that you're arrested, where's this like crazy jail, prison?
Prison.
Crazy jail. It's like,
it's just jail.
It's just jail, right?
I was watching, I'm not going to comment where I saw it, but basically prisons now are mostly mental health facilities.
And
makes sense to me.
Minor crimes, right?
Yeah.
Like minor drug possession.
Like there's still, obviously the major stuff here and there, but a lot of I think a good chunk of people in jail are just mental health.
That's exactly what I heard. And I didn't know.
Which is brutal.
Yeah. So, you can be totally batshit crazy. As long as you're just mind your own business, no one cares.
So I'm assuming these prisoners only receive, I don't know, we've done no research on this. No research.
As per usual.
But I'm assuming these prisoners do not receive any type of like medical, like the necessary minimum medical requirements, for...
I've heard they sometimes get some.
But not what they actually would need.
Not like everyone gets a shrink type of help.
Right, exactly. And on top of that, it's like to what degree, I guess bringing all of what we're discussing back to what we originally talked about, it's like, to what degree do we rehabilitate these people? And to what degree can we as in like for them, and can we as a society provide the means for it? You know what I mean? Like
bringing up that financial question. These prisons that these private companies have established, right? They're now filling mental patients basically. I'm assuming that within that budget or whatever proposal they're putting, that they have a certain number, a certain percentage of patients that require medical attention.
Yep.
It's probably like a budget for like pharmaceuticals, budgets for doctors.
Probably.
How often are these budgets like? How much of this money is actually going to that instead of going to their pockets?
I'm thinking it all goes in there, but it's going like
it gets diverted and subverted, and then you don't reach that. So I think maybe we would have financing
if people cared.
If people cared.
Right.
And if we did, what change would that happen,
My argument is, I think a country like Norway, one of them countries, Norway, Finland.
One of them white countries.
One of them countries that are pretty much homogenous, but then there's not a lot of people there so they can experiment. One of those, has done this thing in their jail system where people do actually get rehabilitated. Like the jail cell isn't like this cooped up metal box. It's like they have like a bed, like a decent bed, I think there's some of the rooms even have like a TV or something. Like it looks like a normal apartment, but then of course it has like the gate.
But you're limited, yeah.
So you're limited.
So
it's like there's a degree of humanity there. Like there's a degree of we're letting, because part of the reason why a lot of these people are treated the way they are or act the way they are, like when you treat them like animals, they're gonna act like animals. That same type of behavior. Right. It's like when you sell them off to a room and treat them like they're caged up wild animals, they're gonna do wild animal stuff. Give them the humanity they deserve. And we'll find the means to get them back, because all of this stuff matters. We like to act like people, like we can just find our way to the top and we don't have to give a crap about people. I feel that's a Western thought process. Like we treat
we're picking yourself by, you pick yourself up by your bootstraps to get up.
But we forget that we already live in a society that in a lot of ways already helps everybody. So why not take it a step further? My tax dollars don't just go to me. They go to everybody.
Right.
So why not help everybody along the way? There's a way, and then you can still get a profit. I mean, we know we're capitalists, but there's a degree where you could still cut a profit.
You still make some money, but not as much as you have been.
Yeah, nobody's saying no one, and that's the funny part, no one's even saying you can't even privatize prisons. That's the funny part, is that you can still privatize them, but you could still give people a humanity they deserve in it.
Yeah, you can make a little less.
Right.
It won't and it may just make your life better, less violence. It just raises the general,
It's like you can benefit from having the idea and thought it out, and you can get the money you deserve from that, and people can still get what they need out. Like, people don't have to lose in the system. They don't.
And you'll always lose.
Like, they don't. Even, I mean, not everybody's going to win.
Right.
But not everybody has to lose.
Exactly
so,
right.
I think there's an option that, or not an option, something we haven't considered yet, is that there are some people, not a high percentage, but some people who are beyond rehabilitation.
That's true.
Yes.
There are some people who are just simply wired wrong, have been exposed to too much, done too much in their lives, broken too many seals, whatever you want to call it. That
They cannot come back.
That are too far gone.
Right.
It is a thing.
Well, yeah, like I guess serial killers, right?
Probably.
I've seen some of those
like
interviews with those
Manson.
serial killers. Yeah, like
probably too far gone.
But we talked about this like a while back, right? Like where it was like 10 episodes ago or more than that at this point. But where we were talking about how like America has this obsession with not seeing justice, but seeing like punishment, vengeance. Yeah, like we're obsessed with not the justice or not seeing someone come back from something, but just to see them get hurt as much as they hurt others. And so I think that like a lot of that blends in, right? Like you can still, if these people are so far gone, do they not deserve humanity still though? Like they could still live out the rest of their lives, the
argument, right? Like,
but in isolation. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, okay, this person can live, even if they're like in jail for life, like because they've committed such heinous acts that they can't be let back out into society. They still don't deserve to just be seeing.
So,
but 10 foot by 12 foot or 5 foot by 12 foot or whatever.
Well, crazy thought, right? There's low percentage, 1%. 0.5, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you kept them together, though, what goes on? Let's say you have like a neighborhood or a like a Truman Show kind of like setting,
where you
leave them, or not just serial killers, but anybody who's like too far.
What you get is the best sitcom of all time.
Let's take all the worst serial killers.
Well, see, this is the thing.
Throw them in the living room and see what happens.
Well, this is the thing, right? Like they're wired differently. Well, they're wired differently. They think differently, right? Like you said, Norway. You say Sweden. These countries typically have very low percentages of violence, low percentages of
very forward-thinking crime.
Yeah. It's because they're just homogenous, right? Like the population is strictly mostly 90%
the same, but also like a lot of the
same religion,
process,
same
but
same
a lot
education,
of
same bearing in
are different, right? Like it's like that's my issue with us. It feels like is that like we get these jokes all the time about America being violent, but we are like there are a lot of things that you could breed out of us that would make us not like that. There are more diverse countries than us. You know what I mean? We're not the only ones, but we just seem to be the ones that are most hell-bent on violence. There has to be something in what we're doing. So you could stop the prison system, quote unquote, by teaching us better means to communicate with each other and be better humans, so that way there are less people even going to jail. And then for the people that are in jail, you could make them better. And then for the small amount that we're discussing that can't be rehabilitated, right? You just take care of them. You know what I mean? Like, they can be in isolation and still live their lives till the end.
I mean, but if we're looking at, like, the country as a whole, like, people forget that America was founded on violence.
Yeah.
Like,
most countries
countries.
I mean, a lot of countries were, but, like, we, like, romanticize it. Like, oh, man, like, we went to war and, like, we fought all these people. And like,
military and all that.
Yeah, and so,
big
like,
stick policies.
Yeah,
and, like, that's...
Well, the problem...
Rough Riders.
I have a little bit of problem with it. I think that this comes up a lot in most people's arguments at some point, is that when you have these people, let's say the ones that are too far gone, let's just use them as an example. There's no way they're coming out. There's no way they're getting better. They still get some sort of civility in jail.
Right.
I'm still stuck in some dead-end job helping to pay for that. I have to live some shit job, some shit life, marginally worse.
Right.
And part of that is taken away from me to make sure that they have civility. So sort of I work to help them out. But there's no cycle back.
Right. I see what you said, but that's part of what I'm arguing too, is that like things can happen at the same time. So while we're making sure that people in jail are getting better as opposed to just getting let back out, because the alternative to that is that you don't pay, that dude gets free, and then he kills your family.
Or you kill him.
Or you kill him. So it's like, which is, I'm sure, well, you want to say your argument, because I think I already know where you were just headed.
Well, no, like, I had this conversation with someone I shouldn't have had it with a couple years back, and they were like, well, what do you do with the people that can't be rehabilitated? It's just like you can't rehabilitate them, so they're not going to do anything to contribute back to the community or back to the society.
They can't reimburse back to society.
Yeah, there's no reimbursement for you putting in all this effort to, at a bare minimum, keep them alive.
Right.
And so it's just like, why are you putting in the effort to do that for, however many, it's not a whole lot of people, but however many of these people out there that...
A number.
Yeah, a number that aren't going to contribute back. Like, why are you putting in resources for that? It's basically just like pissing money away.
Right.
When if you got rid of them, you wouldn't have to worry about that. And whatever amount of money was dedicated to like maintaining their, lifespan, however long it would be, could then be allocated to giving better benefits to the people and education to the people that you can rehabilitate, that will come back out, that will be productive members of society when their term is over. And so it's just like...
Yeah. My only counter to that is that we got enough money for all of it.
Okay, yeah, so this is the thing, right? Like, that argument that your friend brought up, like, what do you do with them, right? Because like Nate said, he's working a shitty job, and he has to pay for these people. The thing is, like Elvin said earlier, we only typically focus on people who are really good or really bad, right? Like people who are success stories, people who
serial killers
are dirt poor. We never really consider the medium or the mediocre, right?
Which is
so let's assume that like we implement a system of rehabilitation, and now the people are being rehabilitated, so life is getting better, right? Less crime. You have people are working more together. You feel safer. Are you really going to care about that 0.5%? Like how much do you like? In terms of taxes that you pay today, how much do you actually know about where that money goes?
Zero.
Right.
Exactly. So at that point, when you start seeing things getting better around you, are you going to care that your money is going to sustain this 1% or whatever percent it is?
I guess it's, oddly enough, comes back full circle to the last two episodes where it's like, you kind of ignore the tail ends and you sort of steer the middle in a better direction.
Right. That's exactly what it comes. I think that's exactly what.
Yeah, because if you pull the middle up, everyone benefits.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you pull the middle, because that's the big thing about that to me too, is that one, none of us really knows where all of it goes. One, and then two, it's people like to be upset about taxes until they have roads to ride on and a home, you know what I mean? Like, and public parks that are kept up.
And the biggest arguments that are thrown are about the extremes. Like when you look at politics and people make, like when people are running for office or trying to push any agenda on you, they're not talking to you about the mediocre because you don't care, right? Like we're all struggling, but they say the poor need jobs or the rich need to pay more taxes, but we should care more about the middle.
Right.
The numbers that people don't really pay attention to, right? Like
it's like the normal distribution of people.
Right.
You get the tail ends and all the meats in the first two.
Let's worry about the fucking meat, the boring, the gray.
It doesn't matter what car you drive in. Nobody likes running into a pothole. I'm going to make sure we don't have any potholes anymore.
Right.
Traffic still sucks.
Yeah, traffic still blows. Like, part of my argument that I had recently with y'all is, or I think it was Mike or one of them is the idea of like, even in the Peach Pass, like it's like we all pay taxes for a road that we have to now pay for.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that a little bullshit to everybody? It's like you've already paid, but now you gotta pay again.
Welcome to property taxes. Paying for shit you already own.
That you already own. Like, it's like we already contribute this. So if stuff like that is cool with somehow everybody, and I don't hear enough arguments about it, then what the hell is the problem with making sure that other humans have a means to survive?
So, I don't know how this would work. I'm curious to see what you guys say. What would be the repercussions, or how would it work if I, like, say I was given a list of, like, 30 things.
Yeah.
And I get to pick, like, no matter what I'm taking, I'm losing 25% to tax.
Right.
It's just, that's what it is, fine. But I'm given a list of 30 things. I get to decide how my taxes are spent in those choices. Like, I've got, roads, public schools, politicians, military, whatever the fuck the choices
That's what your vote is for.
Well, you still don't really get to choose, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to a degree, but that's literally what the whole process of your vote is for, is to decide how people spend your money and make the world better.
Yeah, but you still don't know.
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, you don't know the numbers necessarily because there's no real systematic way to do that.
You also don't know, like, I mean, somebody can say, don't worry, I'll spend your money on doing this.
Right.
And they do. and then they don't.
Yeah, exactly. They spend their money on however they spend your money however they feel like it, which is in and of itself its own issue. There's plenty of corruption where people use taxpayer money for their own personal gain. I get that, but in the same sense, like I feel like there are a few arguments that we could work on first, and then everything. But like my big thing, I thought about it today. I was like, why the fuck is there no systematic app yet that? And I'm sure there's people that have worked on it, or maybe I'm just ignorant and haven't seen one yet, but that literally covers everything that is happening in your district in terms of policy, like everything, every bill that's being proposed, and like who is proposing it.
I think it's, you know, I think you bring up, that's an interesting thing. And I think it's a lot of that is that there's lots of work that needs to be done, right?
Right.
And I think people, again, don't feel the effort to do it because it's easy to go from low end, high end, and that's easy.
It's also dangerous from a political standpoint. Right. You don't want people to know every decision you're making.
How often are you going to get lobbied against?
And that's,
like,
that's privacy. That's also a very important thing because it's just like most politicians don't want people super educated about what's going on because there's a lot of things that like people are like, oh man, like we want to like push this like infrastructure bill so that way like we can like keep all these roads and things taken together. But then also on like page like 255, line 37, like we're just going to like say that half of this money just goes directly into my pocket, but no one's going to go into
this account, right?
Yeah, you know, and so it's just like if no one's like super checking for that, and we don't have any like anybody really like going through everything.
The people who are checking for are the ones that on line 37 get the money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because how else? Because there's not enough money, right, in government to pay a good salary. So even if you had to check, are you going to actually check? No. Like if your salary is like $40,000 or $45,000, and they give you 10 manuals,
with 300 pages
with
each.
1,000-page manuals each. And they want you to read all like 700 or 1,000 pages of like fine print on like legal letterhead. No,
not even just that. It's not possible. Even if you made $200K a year, $300K a year doing your position, there's so much legislation and so much time spent doing all of that you could never get through it. There's no real way. That's why we give a lot of politicians shit for not reading their policies. But it's like when you get hit with 300 of them in a week.
There's no way.
There's no physical means of me being able to do this. Like, this whole thing is a shit show. This whole thing is a show where we act like we know what's going on, but nobody knows.
Everybody globally is like that.
Yeah.
So I think Nate brought up a good point, though. Like, what if you could dictate exactly, like, oh, my 25 goes into this percentage, right? And, like, you have a computer like that's taking it. Yeah.
Whatever.
We received enough for roads, so we remove that option. He's now got 3 options instead of the options you had because it's been covered. We're covered. Yeah. We're good. We reached our minimum level. Yeah. So now you're just education, military. Oh, we're covered. Boom, 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 boom. That'd be sweet. I don't know.
The issue also though is that like these topics assume like the issue with all of this is that we have to assume that society is educated. You know what I mean? Because if
you help them out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but I'm saying from the standpoint in an ideal world, like this works in a small room where there's a few people and we're all like at the same level of intelligence, but it doesn't work where like everyone, you know what I mean? Like this, and intelligence doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is. It just means that they're not educated on the subject. So it's like, oh, I'm going to put this money into the military, and then you and everybody from the state put their money into the military, but you don't understand what you even put it into because you're so focused on your job and your daily life that you don't read legislation.
Well, people do that now with voting.
People do that now with voting. Yeah, people just vote along party line because it's easy, which understandable is true because, like I said, it all stems from politicians. The less you know, the better for them.
Oh yeah.
So it's
just like vote for me on red, vote for me on blue.
Right.
That's it.
Well, you said back in the day? You mean now?
No, back in the day was more.
Yeah, definitely back in the day.
Because then you could not read the Bible, sir, but
that's true, yeah, I can. And I'll interpret it for you. The Lord said, give me 10% of everything you earned. What God need money? Why you need money for? You know what I mean?
Hey, we all need we all need gold goblets.
Yeah, for the roof on.
Look,
bro.
Man, we gotta like if
we gonna buy a chili cheese dog.
If we gonna meet in this building, we gotta make sure this building is spruced up.
I guess, man, but it never gets spruced up, and then the pastor come in every week with new gaiters on. So like, what exactly is going on here? I want a random tangent. I'm sorry. That gets me though.
That's what this whole podcast is about, is random tangents.
True. My boy cracks open another Modelo. Let's get it.
Obviously takes us very seriously.
No, it's good. No, enjoy yourself.
I thought it's been good, right?
Yeah, it's a little discussion going on.
Yeah. But no, don't you, not obviously 100%, but to some degree, if you provide let's say, a list of 50 things, doesn't that help people sort of weeble-wobble their way around the uneducationness of it? So, yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, it goes back to the tail-end argument. Yeah, you're going to have those people who are, like, psychotic or, like, super dumb who are going to pick, like, oh, I'll put it in cheese. And, like, that's not a choice for them.
Right. I see where you're coming from, but in the same sense, like, the reason why we have these people representing us is because a lot of us cannot represent ourselves.
Sure.
Like, even though, like, I would say everybody in this room is intelligent, I don't think any of us knows what's really going on in the state of Georgia. You know what I mean? So if you handed
I don't think
us
the state of Georgia knows what's going on in the state of Georgia.
Exactly. So if you handed all of us a ballot right now and been like, all right, these are 10 items to vote on, we would literally be filling them on like Scantrons at school where you didn't know the subject.
That's exactly right. Like who here feels qualified?
C's get degrees. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, but who here feels qualified to be the mayor of Atlanta today? Like, honestly thinks they're qualified.
So,
free candy for everyone.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, people, you only need to be 18 to be mayor, but like in my head, I'm like,
you do?
Wait, what?
To be a mayor of a city, it's 18 years old.
Shut your mouth.
I didn't know that one at all.
That can't be right.
Dude, I'm dead serious. Look it up.
G.I. Joe.
But like, don't you think, like, if I'm thinking about the mayor of a city.
No one thinks about that because everybody that's elected is at least like 40 damn years.
Exactly. So you assume that it's 40 is the age that you have to be.
Yeah, this is not senators or presidents. So.
Hold on. I think you read this wrong.
Just double check me, because I think there was like an 18-year-old kid somewhere that was like a mayor of a city.
Probably. Maybe that's another state though. Maybe Georgia law.
I don't know what the Georgia law is. Yeah.
But I mean, like there was somebody that was running.
You mean governor?
No, like mayor.
Oh, because mayor of a city.
Of a city, yeah. You have many mayors of a city. Like
there was somebody that was running for some office that was like.
What?
Like, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry, I found the answer.
Go for it.
Most states in the U.S. also have age requirements for the offices of governor, state senator, and state representative. Some states have a minimum age requirement to hold any of these elected offices, usually 21 or 18.
Yeah, so like mayors because they're below those guys. So you can be the
mayor and not buy beer for yourself?
Right. So that's the question, right? Like, who feels qualified to run a budget for a city? Like, so yeah, if you're Douglasville or if you're some smaller city, fine.
Yeah. I feel like it's just like, what eats me up is
fine.
No, I'm just saying, like, if it's 500 people you're looking after.
What eats me
still
up?
Not fine.
Still not fine. Like,
is that there's like, you know what's funny about all of this is that, yeah, in the future this might be different, but there's just raw numbers that you could run to handle all of this. You get where I'm coming from? Like, no one has to really think about it. You could just do, if you could get the data for everything.
Exactly right, like, right, because you could run. I mean, today we're all about the AI and the algorithms to like find the most efficient process.
Which is the future, yeah.
So why can't we find the most efficient process to find a budget to run a city?
Right.
Well, really, the mayor or president or whatever level thing you're using, he's not in the back crunching numbers in Excel. He's got some nerd doing it for him.
But what
he said some nerd. You walk into 1600 Pennsylvania, and he just opens up a door, and there's just some dude with tape on his glasses, crunching numbers, and it's like, what are you doing? I'm balancing the budget, and the door. You got a Letterman jacket
in the closet with a typewriter.
Shut up, nerd!
With an abacus to his left.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I've been crunching numbers the same way since the 60s. Like, shut up, nerd!
No, you open the door, and it's like a sweatshop of people on Excel.
Oh my god. It's a sweatshop of Excel spreadsheets.
What does constitute these responsibilities?
Right. But like, I totally agree with you. Like it's the same thing I think of as we like, what is it? Neil deGrasse Tyson. I was about to say Neil Patrick Harris. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
way different.
Yeah. A vastly different person.
We're talking about the Flavor of astrophysics here.
Yeah, exactly. The Flavor of astrophysics. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Shout out.
Mentioned the fact that people should like. There's this abundance of politicians that are lawyers, but there are not very many that are engineers or scientists. And his argument is that
didn't have the one who was running the black guy.
Yeah. There's a black guy right now running in like Florida or something like that. That's like killing it. But his point was that lawyers get taught, and of course I'm not at law school, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Somebody go check me. But lawyers get taught to argue. They don't necessarily get taught to find the facts. And the issue with politics is that a lot of these people, like back when the founding fathers were around, they weren't politicians, they were scientists. Like, a lot of them had their own labs. Like, what's his name?
Jefferson.
Yeah. Jefferson, Franklin, that they had labs, they did experiments,
they were businessmen.
They were businessmen,
yeah. People that were, like, used to solving critical issues.
Exactly.
Successful businessmen.
Yeah, right. Successful, exactly.
Put in that caveat.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, I see what you did there. But the point still remains is that like there were people who had to be trained at this, so they looked for solutions, and that's what we're missing now in politics is people who look for solutions.
Yeah.
Not people who can just argue well or can skirt subjects well.
Because that's not interesting to the public.
Yeah, it's not just that it's not interesting to the public. It doesn't get anything done. You just end up pushing the shit around until your term is over.
Yeah, because no one's looking for actual solutions.
Right. They're just trying to get in and get out and get whatever they can out of it.
I mean, look at the budgets nowadays, right? We haven't had like a full 12-month omnibus. We're just renewing a bunch of continuing resolutions.
Yeah, it's just like stop trying to run the same play from 1960 and like
we've been running a Hail Mary for like 60 years.
You gotta spice it up. Yeah, you gotta find a solution to problems.
He still has the QB from Madden 99.
Oh, relax.
He's still all pixelated.
But I mean, it's true. Like, we need to find, like I said, none of this is that. And it's tough to think about in human terms where we describe things between each other. But the numbers themselves don't lie. The numbers themselves would dictate what we need to spend our money on. And
you need someone with like the right combination of crazy and go-getterness. But all right, take the loss for 3 years. Sucks. Right. Go get it.
Yeah, like imagine if, I know it's corny to say, but it's like the same way if you run a business, like you could look at numbers and know how long people work and all of that and make decisions and well-informed decisions that way. If the country had a balance sheet where you could run not only just the country state by state, but you could run county by county balance sheets as to what people are spending on in real time, you know how freaking crazy that would be?
You know how many columns that would be in Excel?
We're talking about like triple A's at least.
Look, Excel can't though, right? Because it's only got like 100,000 like columns per something like that. Yeah, it's limited.
It's 10,000 at the bottom.
10,000 at the bottom.
I don't know how far out it goes.
We'll get there.
On a real note,
we'll get there eventually.
Bro, you have any idea how ridiculous it is to max out an Excel spreadsheet?
With live data too, you never open it. If you close that window, you never open it up back again, bro. Google will personally contact you like, bruh. Like, chill. Yeah. A JIT Pie would reach out to you and be like,
but you're 256 columns.
So that's as far out you can go?
Yeah, you only go 10,000 rows down. So
yeah, we got a lot of numbers to crunch.
It's 16,384 rows, 256 columns.
Okay.
So you get, what is that, like 5 columns a state?
Yeah, it just can't be done. You have to use like SAS or JMP to like get this going. Maybe R.
Looks like we just solved the budget crisis, boy.
Big Gang solves the budget crisis?
No, that's why big data is big, right? That's why everybody's hopping on. It's a hot,
because
employment sector nowadays.
It is the facts. It isn't like everything else we say to each other is bullshit. The only facts that exist are the numbers.
No, and it makes sense. Like if you want to buy a new car,
right,
and you make X amount of dollars a year,
right,
but it costs Y,
and you have a car, exactly. You have a car. You know it's only going to last you 5 more years. How much money do you need to save a year to get?
We ain't got to talk about any of it.
All those math problems you skipped as a kid, yeah.
They make sense.
Remember Jeff had a car full of oranges?
Yeah, remember algebra kids? This makes sense.
Yeah, remember that time you didn't pay attention to algebra class?
In class?
Yeah. Shut up.
In class.
That's why Trump's president.
In class A?
I don't like that one at all. I don't like that statement at all. That made me uncomfortable.
We are neither liberal nor conservative. We're neither Democrats nor Republicans. Here we all.
You know how sick you're going to be when you find out it was all your fault he became president? Because you wanted to answer C on all the ones you didn't get right?
What if he's doing great shit and he's just holding off for the very end and you have no idea?
I said the greatest joke that would ever happen, even though it'll never happen, the greatest joke that would have ever happened was if he had become president and was so egotistical about it that he became the best president we had ever seen.
Yes.
I said, that's the only, that's the only way you could get me to be like, yo, this dude was hilariously fire. That's the only way, but other than that, that's not part of anything he's doing. He's a scumbag. We're not going to get into that too much in the podcast.
Yeah. We'll let history write itself.
History will write itself,
right.
Yeah.
But what if he's sandbagging you for 3 years? On the last year, he comes in
and sweeps.
Like Xerxes on the freaking raft.
and sweep. Like I said, it'd be funny. I mean, it wouldn't be funny because, a lot of people would still be horrified. But history will tell the story of how this dude trolled for 3 years and then gave up and then, brought us the greatest years we've ever seen.
Yes.
But guess what? He ain't smart enough for that because he didn't do his Excel spreadsheet balancing and he did not read his summer reading after school.
Summer reading's important, kids. Do it.
Exactly.
Not just kids, adults, whoever missed out on summer reading.
Exactly. Read your books. You read your books at the end of the semester.
Yeah. Ain't shit going on in the summer anyway. Read some books.
Read some books. Yeah.
So,
education.
Or play with
Nathaniel would like to verbally state that he does not endorse you reading books.
Well, I endorse reading books,
Exactly.
and I'm Mexican American, first generation.
What does that have to do with anything?
I'm just saying.
How does that influence?
You're just racist for no reason.
I wasn't racist. I'm
No,
showing
what's wrong with you, man?
that I come from an immigrant
You
family.
ruined the
And
podcast.
I like reading, and reading's taking me.
We're gonna send you to jail,
better than I was before.
and then we're gonna make a decision as to what we need to do with it.
Yeah, you're going to send him to jail and he's going to come out smarter than all of us with like 12
MS-13 on his chest written all over.
Except now I'm leading it. No, let's just keep that.
Let's relax.
Let's
there.
relax that. I'm
Yeah.
to any MS-13 listeners out there, I'm just messing around.
Someone who's just like, fuck. Now we gotta get him. But
So that solves it. That was it.
yeah.
That was easy. In less than an hour, we solved it all.
Yeah, exactly. Excel spreadsheets.
Hey,
everything we
dude,
got.
we should be on the fucking presidential cabinet, man. Like, they need to get us into a think tank. Pay us good money.
They do need some nerds, though. They do some serious.
No,
No,
they
they do.
need.
They
They
do.
have a lot of
They
nerds
do.
with their political. They need people who just run them. But I guess the issue with all of what we're talking about is that how do you get the numbers?
Nerds.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could get people
Well,
to get out
technology.
there. But
There's a
eventually
gap.
right.
There's a gap right now that needs to be filled with advancing in technology.
Right.
Before
And
we
there's
get
a lot of jobs.
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Just
jobs.
like activation energy, you need a certain level of technology to be able to process the data.
Imagine.
Speaking of nerds.
Yeah, it mentioned activation energy.
No. I mean, it is. It's true.
That man. Said
Once
activation
we're
energy.
able to like build like a quantum computer, then we'll be cooking.
You getting a swirly after this podcast.
I'm just saying, once we can make a quantum computer work and adjust silicon just the right way,
Man, you're making it worse for yourself.
things just right, man.
Now
That
you're
AI is
getting
gonna
a wedgie,
flourish.
Oh man,
I was just about to say that.
you're getting a wedgie and a knuckle sandwich.
As long as it's not a wet willy, we're good.
You're getting that too.
That's a little gross, man.
But
You're putting your finger in your mouth, rubbing it in my ear. Now you got
Eddie on my finger.
right. You're
That's what the sink's for.
Exactly.
All right, okay, we're falling apart.
We are falling apart at the seam. But yeah, but
Bunch
at the
of
end of the day,
you.
like the funny part is that you could see the country. You could see like theoretically, like the country with enough of this technology in place, you could see the country, no joke, getting run by like a thermostat almost.
basically.
Like yeah, you could siphon
Honestly,
all
it's
this
just-
energy all the way. Like you could get all this data so compartmentalized, so sectional that you could just one person could run it theoretically.
Yeah, wait.
Yeah.
You guys wait for that, like
Yeah.
robotic uprising or whatever you want to call
The
it.
whole thing is being controlled by that thing that tests your blood pressure at Walgreens.
They've been talking for years. Like, man, I've been measuring these fat
Adjust the military budget. But I mean, it's the truth, man. Like you hit because that's all we're doing now, right? Is like if you think about technology not as like just a resource for success, but also just information, it changes everything. Like back in the day, like murder and all that stuff, homicide, all that stuff was unmanageable because there was no means to, there was no
way to see a trend. Yeah, there's no way to
There's
follow
no
like
trend to
patterns.
see.
Yeah.
As we get better and better with tech, we're getting better and better with not only knowing what people will be like.
Dude, look at Google.
Yeah, or their
imagine how much
moves.
they have, dude.
Yeah, think about like there's this podcast I was watching. They were talking about like Netflix, and it was like how scared you would be to know how much Netflix knows about you.
Dude, Netflix,
Yeah,
Google,
like-
Facebook, all these companies that like the amount of data that they have.
Yeah.
Amazon.
It was Nate I was talking to, right? Where it was just like Netflix is different depending on who's watching.
No,
it.
you're talking to me about that.
Oh yeah.
And we actually like
we tested,
Yeah, because we were back in Owen's room and like we turned on both of our Netflix and we were like looking at the same show, and both of us had different previews.
Yeah.
Right. And
And
so
it's like,
Yeah.
It's like, what's the Avengers where they got the algorithm searching out people? It's like that.
yeah,
Dude, it's exactly.
That helicarrier with the cannons in the sky.
And I wonder who owns more satellites in space, like Amazon or Google, like as like data repositories.
I don't know, but I think Google's using them better. Google Maps is unstoppable.
Well, Google's got Google Maps does that, dude. They probably have those like big satellites full of a bunch of servers, just empty space, data and collect. I don't know.
yeah, of
I
course.
don't know.
They got those black
They're
sites.
spending hundreds of millions of dollars just to collect data, just so that way they know what.
Dude,
you
their research, their R&D departments are insane.
Yeah.
Budget.
I've tried some other map websites. Nothing even comes close to even touching Google Maps.
Google Maps is unbelievable because I think it uses everybody's cell phone.
Right, it's using like
I don't care what it's using.
we're basically at that Batman. Remember?
Yeah,
Morgan Freeman when he activated that.
The Batman surveillance thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And on that note, people,
it's been a good podcast.
It has been a good podcast.
We took some crazy tangents.
As we always do, but I thought,
at the end of the day, kids, learn how to use your Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, and don't live a life.
That actually is true because you'd be surprised how much that comes in handy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And not just entering in information. Know your functions.
Yeah, pivot
know
tables.
Your function. Pivot tables.
Pivot
know how to link your sheets.
Graph sheets.
Right.
Histograms.
Be lookup. That's important.
Exactly. And then one day you could become president of the United States.
Know how to read, create, and interpret histograms.
True. Know how to make a legend.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And avoid prison and jail as much as possible.
And always label your axes.
And on that note, it's been another good week, y'all.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter.
At
Pumpernickel Pod.
Yes, sir.
Also known as Mr. Pumpernickel P Podcast.
Which also,
I want to mention that was a fantastic name for us on your part.
Appreciate it.
Just Google us.
The website is being edited, but it is up. So if you want,
exists.
It exists. We'll put it that way. It exists. It's gross looking right now because we haven't added the additional stuff to it. But you can go on there and see the Twitter feed and then whatever. So
it's kind of like Tony the Tiger, but Tony is 2 E's instead of Y.
Right. It's like Tony with an extra chromosome right now. And so
it's basic HTML.
Their food.
It's food.
It's a website.
Yeah, right.
Right. Basic
I gotta
HTML.
work on my Excel spreadsheet.
And
well, on that note, with that ringing endorsement from Eddie Sanchez,
we're out.
It's not high definition. I'm just saying. Just get ready for some standard definition.
Man, we out, man.